took a semester for me to, get into the track and get to be aware of all how things are going on. Whereas if you compare it to India, there was a given blueprint beforehand by your professor, which if you follow, then you might
It's really interesting point you raised there about, yeah, looking into the money sort of side before you decide where you want to go. So
you would get a lot of money through government contracts for producing a road or for getting a construction contract for a building.
you win your masters, you also managed to get sort of, yeah, placement as well, summer placement there, and straight away you go into the job as well, basically.
The other important skill set that they look into is your skills, your software skills, and your soft skills. The job application process here is very different to the job application back from my hometown.
What's the best advice you can give you, and they can pave the path of what you're already on, basically? First of all, brother, thank you very much for willing to share your story. I briefly looked at your profile, your CV, in fact, and that's brilliant. Obviously, that's what motivates basically others as well when you share these kind of stories. Because I know that there's sort of, yeah, the anxiety, the sort of, yeah, the questions I'm getting about the getting the job in the UK. Obviously, that's the more sort of in topic nowadays. I mean, how to get into the job market. But looking at your CV, certainly you broke all the rules there. Basically, you got into the internship and got the job straight away from the after the masters as well. So it'll be a pleasure actually to share those experiences with the wider audience. In fact, your publication, how urgency you were in, actually, you got some interesting publications there on environmental subjects. So yeah, that's quite interesting to bring in that as well.
Really a pleasure being here. I've been following your channel ever since. It's been now 3 years. Like if I look back, because when I decided to first come into UK, I first searched in through civil engineering in UK, and the first video that popped up was of yours. And I've been following you ever since. I've joined in many multiple Q&As on Sundays as well, just to ask and clear out some of my questions. But yeah, as for me, my name is Mirza Jahangir Beg. I'm a graduate engineer with a postgraduate degree in MSc Advanced Structural Engineering from the University of Aberdeen. My interest is in civil structural engineering. My previous roles are of a site engineer and junior BOQ specification engineer. Currently, I am in the field of marine engineering. And as you've mentioned before as well, I have three published research papers along with four accepted research papers. And yeah, I'm just currently moving on to, expand my knowledge in the field of structural engineering. So yeah, that's how it is.
No, that's a brilliant introduction, Mr. Mirza. Right, okay, so we're going to start obviously the more sort of in questions. I mean, especially from the graduates that I receive on pretty much on daily basis, like how actually the culture shock actually from your home
Mhm.
country into the UK, how does that affect naturally a student? Obviously, I mean, you have no idea what you're going to end up in, basically. I mean, just thinking about, obviously, or you relying on the YouTube and basically a bit of a, as you mentioned, basically you watch a few videos and here and there, and you just leap into the different world. How does that affect, and how did you manage that, basically getting, and obviously looking at your profile being so successful straight away, being in the UK? So how did you manage that actually transfer from your home country into the UK?
Um, it was very overwhelming. I don't know if currently, especially right now, because of the recession going on, people may have a similar effect, but it might be somewhat different. But back then, it was COVID phase, and COVID was very much at high peak over there in my home country in India, and it was very much overwhelming for, I believe, most of the students that were applying at that moment and especially for me as well, because um, the waves were coming in from the COVID, and it was very unprecedented moment at that time. No one really knew what to do. Everyone were trying their best to stick with their families, and there I was, trying to move out of that comfort zone and just to explore my education a bit more further away from my country. So, as far as cultural shock goes, I would say that um, it was very much I hadn't planned for that thing, to be honest. I was just looking forward to just go in and get a postgraduate degree. I would really, really give a lot of credit for this to my professor in my uni because I just completed my undergrad. I didn't even have it. I didn't even gotten a degree before I came into UK. So I was in my last semester when I got in the application process and all of those bits. So yeah, I would really give that credit to them. And it wasn't particularly UK that I was going for, so it was all over the world wherever I could get the chance to get a master's degree. And the specification I was going forward to was structural engineering. But in terms of cultural shock, I was very much, taken aback with the methodologies and the method of teaching and method of learning from students here compared to where I was from. So that was the major setback, and it took a semester for me to, get into the track and get to be aware of how things are going on. So that's how it was.
Yeah, so actually that leads me really to, yeah, nicely to the next question about, obviously, I mean, straight away from when you completed, pretty much, yeah, not even completed your civil engineering degree, and straight away you are in the master in completely new environment. How did you find that actually transition? Was it like a similar? Is it intense, quite intense? The difference between the two, if you can just talk about, yeah, the two different sort of, yeah, education system from your home country transitioning to the UK?
I would really say that in terms of education system back from where I'm from, which is India, and here in UK you have a lot of creative side to yourself. So you have the freedom of projecting your assignments and freedom of expressing your thoughts and innovations through your assignments. Whereas if you compare it to India, there was a given blueprint beforehand by your professor, which if you follow, then you might get to know a lot about the assignments and you will get a better grade. Here, I think it's a bit more free in terms of what the assignment should look like because you can present it however you want to. If I am taking a different approach, it, it can be different for the other students as well to project their assignments, but in the end, we should all get the similar outcome. And I believe that's how the grading system works here as well, because the professor likes to see what more new innovations and what new tech or what new software you're trying to adopt into your assignment while projecting yourself. So I believe that freedom was the major difference that I could see between UK and and my previous education. But I think, yeah, apart from those bits, I really do see the work ethic and the discipline that the students here are projecting compared to where I was from, because mostly what students have the mindset back in my home country is that if you would get a good package, then you would pursue this course. Whereas here, I'm looking over at a lot of students who are just exploring this course and just studying this course because they're really interested in to know what are the basics, for an engineering student to have, and what is civil engineering in general, how the structures work. So they are very much interested in those aspects compared to, getting a good, decent, high-paying job, which is in the end at back of the mind for every student. It is a factor, but here I don't see that as the ultimate factor, that students really go for.
No, that's really interesting point you raised there about, yeah, looking into the money sort of side before you decide where you want to go. So obviously you have the same background. So did you had in your mind that like I'm going to the structure and I will earn more money? Was that a driver there as well for yourself?
No, my basic intention for pursuing a civil engineering course was because of my background beforehand, because my father has been a civil engineer and he has an experience of 40 years and he has been working in Middle East since 82. So he has quite a lot of experience, and when we were young, we would really get the opportunity to go with him to certain site visits. And I think that sparked a bit of interest in me for pursuing a civil engineering course because the competitive market is so high back in India that people tend to just choose what course they get through their grades. But I was very much persistent into getting a civil engineering course rather than any other stream. As far as structural engineering goes, I believe I started off internships very early on in my undergrad. I started to go into internships when I was in my first year, back when they don't even introduce you to core topics and core courses. I was introduced to those courses on field during my internships, so I had an idea of what to do and what not to do. I saw engineers coming into cubicles and designing and coming into cubicles and taking out the quantity estimation. And I was very much interested in those aspects as well because you are planning in for a structure which has not been built yet. So that was something that sparked my interest a bit. And as we were further moving along to my course coming to an end, I then just it was between structural engineering or the advanced aeronautical engineering that I was getting my interest into. But I think I just latched on to structural engineering because it was very much familiar to me because of my previous domain. So that's why I just chose structural engineering.
That's interesting, right, Mr. Mirza? So that brings me to another sort of I'll just bring you in circle there a bit because you mentioned you had the family background in the engineering sort of sector. That's where you brought and basically bring that interest in your source, basically instill in your in your future. What about, I mean, obviously, if you want to transfer this sort of, your interest to the other students who doesn't have any backgrounds, basically, they don't have any sort of, basically leaders there, how would
Hmm.
you basically transfer that interest to them? I mean, how would you portray yourself basically to them as an engineer so they have the same interest? I mean, do you have any sort of idea in that sort of? The reason I'm saying that because there's lots of questions I generally see about the different. Obviously, even if you say civil engineering, there are lots of different disciplines and the especially if you don't have a lead they can't decide which way to go basically civil structure environmental construction management so many minefield there so they can't decide it. How would you in your term basically how would you guide or how would you advise someone in that sort of phase basically that they are double-minded there?
Sure. I'm not very familiar with the mindset over here in the UK, well, that most of the students have, or but I can say from my experience, there are a lot of stereotypes that we need to break before we get that spark or produce that interest in the students. Particularly being a stereotype that civil engineering is just on-site experience, and it's a very harsh job, and it's one of those jobs that requires a lot of hard work but less recognition, especially when it comes to civil engineers being a core foundation of buildings and a building block of a society, basically. So we have to break in a lot of stereotypes that there is a lot more to civil engineering that it seems, because most of my students back in my undergraduate graduation days, they were interested in getting a civil engineering degree because you would get a lot of money through government contracts for producing a road or for getting a construction contract for a building. And I believe that there's a lot more to it than that because civil engineering it's so much diverse. It's so much interesting when you look into the chemistry that's involved in basically how to make a concrete out of three, four materials. And there are so many researchers out there who are trying to make it more sustainable, because now at present times we cannot adopt the same methodologies that we have been for the past 1200, 1400 years. So I think those bits, if we have a platform such like yours, where we in like entertain students and try to get them to see so many things that there are in structure in civil engineering, and that people can pursue, especially with digitalization coming into the picture as well nowadays. We have so many opportunities for civil engineers to look forward to, that they try to limit themselves into a box. And when it comes to like teaching students of what scopes there are, I would say it's just to educate more and more people about this course, and have people to be a bit more accepting and also a bit more extroverted when it comes to their style of presenting their courses, basically.
That's interesting, Mr. Mirza. I think I need to just step back to towards
Hmm.
your basically your education, and now your transition to the job sort of market now. Like, I mean, you studied here, you did your master's in structural engineering. During your 1 year master's, you also managed to get sort of, yeah, placement as well, summer placement there, and straight away you got into the job as well, basically. So it's a wonder for lots of students here, because it's the reason I'm saying that I'm receiving hundreds of, yeah, text messages, and basically, yeah, about exactly the same sort of, yeah, topic, how to get into the job market. Can you just talk about, yeah, how did you crack that sort of, yeah, phase actually, to get into the, yeah, basically within a year you did your masters, you got the placement, you got the job as well.
Sure, I would first off start by saying that I wouldn't limit myself to any bits, because when I first came into my master's degree was in University of Aberdeen, which relatively specifies, it was very much specific towards the oil and gas industry and the offshore industry, which was something I was aware of before coming in, but I have seen so many students that do not adopt this kind of mindset, where they are open to new experiences and open to new challenges. I just found myself, because I came in with the mindset of having the knowledge of getting into the residential commercial building construction side. But when I first came in, it was like I was open to offshore engineering and the oil and gas industry. So when I just accepted that as, something new to learn and something new to get into. I believe that's what made it for all the other companies and all the other opportunities to pave into my way, because when I was applying for these placements and summer placement and my jobs profile as well, I was just looking into the job description and looking what new things that I can explore for now, because uh, seeing my age and seeing my experience, I believe that I'm very young, and it's important for me to diversify my portfolio by just getting into so many projects that I can, and also different projects. So I believe that intention was the core reason why I would get so many opportunities to my end, because in all sincerity, I just applied to 5 jobs when I was in February time. I was at the end of my second semester, and I then started to apply for jobs, because I looked at all of my other students, and they were very much hesitant, and they were very much overwhelmed by just applying to so many job profiles. So I just applied to 5 companies where I thought that the job description was very much new, and it was something that I could learn from. So that's why I applied to marine engineering and also the oil and gas industry, just to see what it's like. And because of that, I believe the interview process came in and I was selected. One thing to note at was that when I applied to the summer placement program, I didn't look into the fact that they were looking for a full-time student to work in for the summer period. And when the interview session was over and I got selected, I was rejected because of my visa limitation to just work 20 hours a week. I was a bit open to that with the company, and I did reach out to them regarding this problem. And I told them because of my visa limitations, I could only work for 20 hours. This went on for like 2 weeks, but then I got a mail to me stating that yes, I can work for 20 hours a week, and then I got the internship program.
Now that is sort of yeah different, Mirza. I must say that
Mm,
obviously you are open to those challenges, which is not norm actually. What I see,
mm,
especially when student coming from overseas, that in particular, I mean, they are not open to those challenges, which you are. How would you compel basically those sort of yeah mindset, I mean, to be open and accept actually to these kind of challenges? Obviously you said so lots of opportunities around there, as long you are open minded, you accept the challenges there. So how would you basic advice to those kind of students? They are really straight minded, like, I mean, this is what I'm going basically they have really straight mindset, and they don't look basically here and there what's there for, I mean, to grab for. In your case, I mean, you mentioned you were open to just explore actually different sort of sides. How would you compel this kind of mindset? How would you change, I should say? Because for me, I'm facing the same sort of yeah dilemma from the students, and the same question, repetitive question I'm receiving basically to get into that specific sort of yeah job mindset there. How would you break into that sort of field, just to be open and basically yeah accept the challenge? What's in a way?
I believe when you are a graduate, you are very much open to make many mistakes that all of your peers will look and consider them and also acknowledge it and try to make you feel better. One thing that I've learned in my experience now as a graduate engineer is that as more experience you gain, it gets a lot harder to make more mistakes and be more open to stuff. So because of those things, I would say that it's better to just explore as you're young. And if you're a fresher, it's very much better for you to explore as much as you can because it's like an empty vessel where you can be taught and you can be filled with so many new ideas, with so many new principles. And this is something which I believe that a lot of companies, while hiring, look into the students and look into the graduates, freshers, basically that if they are open to learning or not, if they are open to challenges or not. I believe this is the main thing that they look into. And apart from these, the other important skill set that they look into is your skills, your software skills, and your soft skills. So I believe these three things, if you're a fresher, this should be in your priority list, which is to be open to all new challenges, to be open to learn, and to be familiar with softwares and with the current trends that are being adopted by the companies. And last and foremost that I've mentioned is just that be very good with your soft skills and try to know how to express your feelings and yourself to the company, which is, I believe, very much important and which is something that I learned when I joined in the company.
Thank you, Mr. Mirza. So I would just add a question for obviously very, I mean, the audience that will be really interested in about the interview or any assessment process you went through when you go through the basic application process. If you just explain briefly, yeah, the whole process when you apply, how the process went actually from there on.
It is very different. The job application process here is very different to the job application back from my hometown because there it's you just have to upload your resume and that is it. But here it's kind of different because in my hometown, the process goes as if you send in your resume. If you get selected, then you have to go through a certain number of rounds before you get the final email that you have been selected for this role or not. But here, in fact, it's quite the opposite because you have to it's very rigorous. It's very tiring. I would say that, especially the graduate opportunity roles, because you have three, four stages to go into, and then you get the final output that you have been selected or not. So you have to go through aptitude reasoning, you have to go through so many stages while applying. But I believe for me, because I was selected in my summer placement, my next job interview, which I got, was because of the experience that I was already gaining from those summer placements. And I did get a job opportunity from that place as well, but I didn't take it because I've already had made a different commitment to the other company who I was in touch with during that process. But one thing I would really say, which is very important for engineers out there during their interview process, is that, which was also taught to me by my peers who were with me in uni, which was to keep the safety aspect and attribute in mind before answering any question in your interview, be it technical, be it non-technical. You should always, as an engineer, this is something which I learned here way more compared to my course back home, which was to keep the aspect of safety in mind before answering any question, because I was asked questions such as why we prefer to use bolts instead of welding in our structures, and what is the reasoning behind it when welding is far more convenient and economical. So I was answering with so many technical aspects in my mind. You know, there are so many technical reasons why welding is preferred, or why bolts are preferred more than welding, and the chemical reactions that are involved in it if you submerge it into water or whatnot. But in reality, the answer just break down into that it is way more safer. And I believe the reason that I was selected, which I asked them even when I was leaving my placement, my summer internship, was that what was the reason? Because that interview in my mind wasn't the best interview I've had. So I asked them what was the reason that you've accepted my application compared to the other students, because I didn't even get the answer right. So their answer was that you had a civil background and you had a civil input towards the solution that we were looking for, but it wasn't the solution we were expecting you to say. But yes, you gave us another solution for it, which was that I just told them that it's easier to decommission than if you use nuts and bolts rather than welding. But the answer they were looking for that is was that it was safer. And that is the main aspect that any engineer here looks into. And that is one thing that no engineer here in UK would ever not put into their priority while designing, planning, or writing a document of any sort. So I believe that is one thing that graduates should keep in their mind before coming into any interview, which is to keep the aspect of safety in their mind before answering any question.
No, that is absolutely. I can vouch for that. Being working in the industry, like, I mean, for instance, if you're doing a project, I mean, we spend more time on the documentation, the safety aspects, and to cover. It's not just actually as engineer, as is a whole industry as well. How we can be
Mm.
safer. Obviously, we provide the whatever is a bridge or building actually, to obviously is a part of, yeah, basically to the client or to the public there, to enjoy, and that's where it comes from there. So it needs to be safe in operation, in maintenance, and all aspects from that sense. And I could certainly vouch for that. Like, a health and safety plays a big weightage in terms of when you're delivering your design. Sort of, you have a package there. Right, Mr. Mirza. So my next question is, obviously you are now into the graduate job. What sort of training or mentorship you're receiving? Obviously, again, I mean, there is a mindset that, especially in the graduates, that when you get into the job and you would be given the project and just do it yourself. I'm sure that is not the case. So, in your word, obviously, you literally started your graduate job. So, talk me about your sort of process, the mentorship, the training you're getting basically during this sort of stage now.
One good thing about this process here of being a graduate engineer is that everyone in the company knows your limitation and they knows your uh, uh, pros before before assigning you a task. So, and I think this is one thing which I have discussed with my manager a lot, and where they do acknowledge this fact that we are more. responsible in assigning you a task which should be in accords to your experience. And accordingly, with that, they assign us a task. And at the beginning of my starting as a graduate engineer, the whole process was just getting into so many training programs. Even now, I believe last week as well, I had to undergo a training program, and it was regarding the CDM regulations and the health and safety aspects, and so many other things as well. So I believe it's not that if you have a job, you are in the process, you are alongside all the engineers and you're working very hard for it. It's a slow process that you build up yourself, and you are trying to get your work checked in, and you're trying to get your work being in the decision format when it's transferred to the peers, and then they decide whether it's correct or not. I believe this transition of from being a graduate engineer to getting to being a fully fledged engineer, it's just this process that where you are trying to learn as much as you can. You're trying to explore yourself. You're trying to explore where you think you're good at, and you can get a feedback from your company, which whom will say that yes, we believe you are good in this aspect. And one more good thing about being a graduate engineer is that you can aid every engineer who are specific into one thing in the company, and you can work with them and try to see what their work feels like, what their responsibilities are. And I truly believe that, and one more important thing is to get into the chartered engineering stuff, the whole training, the ICE membership, and all of those aspects as well when you're in your company. So it's not that as if your education is over, you're trying to learn every day. And this is one more important thing that I believe many engineers should keep in mind before pursuing this course, which is that you're going to learn as every day. And there isn't, and this is one of the most important thing that I've learned here when I first landed here, which was that no engineer would say that I am truly the best at what I do, and I know everything about whatever my course has to offer. So, and every engineer, and the importance of teamwork is something that I'm learning as my experience is going on forward. So I think this is one of those things which you learn when you are in the company. I do want to pursue my career as into academics later on, but one of my professors advised me to get into a corporate lifestyle just to see how engineers work. And I truly believe it was one of the best advices, because the importance of teamwork and the term engineering judgment has not been clear for me up till now, where it's a decision which every team member suggests, and uh, the majority leads into that, and then it moves on from that. Then.
No, that's great to hear from a young mind like yourself, Mr. Mirza. You mentioned about the CPD, and I must vouch for that. Like, I mean, I've been working in the industry for pretty much 20 years in the same industry, and trust me, I was literally last couple of months I've been quite busy with my sort of fellowship with the ICE, so I was doing that, and I realized even at this stage, obviously, this is a requirement. You need to show what you learned basically in your learning basically during. So for the last couple of years, it's a requirement for the fellow as well. Like, I mean, fellow generally you get like after 10 or 20 years of experience, they are interested to see how you're learning, how you're progressing, basically your professionalism there. So it doesn't stop at all. Actually, it's a continuous sort of your progression you're having, and I'm sure. I mean, you can judge yourself. I mean, you can't just say, "Yeah, I learned everything." It's a minefield, obviously. Lots of advancements, whether that's technology, sustainability, carbon footprint. So you can't gain everything. Obviously, it's a learning process. With the time, you learn bits and pieces from different sort of sectors. Uh, it's a pleasure, Mr. Mirza, being with yourself, and the best advice you could give actually the youngsters, the budding sort of engineers, they coming along. The last question I would ask you, just in your words, I mean, what advice you going to give to those engineers who are embarking on the student journeys from, especially from overseas to the UK? What's the best advice you can give you, and they can pave their path of what you're already on, basically?
Like you said as well, it's a marathon. You need to just run and keep your pace as well. But the advice I would give to any other student who is embarking their journey into pursuing a master's abroad or a bachelor's abroad, I would just say that take it easy, but at the same time, be in love with the process and do not develop the fear of missing out on so many stuff when you're pursuing yourself into this course because there are so many things that you can learn with this process, and it helps you so much as an individual and as an engineer as well. So I embarked this journey by just embracing it rather than stressing out on it because I've been there. I've applied to 32 universities overall in globally. So I know the struggle, and I know that I wasn't even coming into UK before 3 days before my course was starting. And when I was given the scholarship, then my family and I, got the confidence to just go. And I know it's a very big struggle and it's a very big journey, but I believe for what it's worth, if your intentions are good, it will lead to more success and it will lead to a future which is very bright. So just to embark on this journey with a smile on your face and just be happy and go on it because I was also very much scared 2 years before. And when I was going to the convocation, my family members started sending me pictures of the conversation I had with them 1 year before, where I stated I have not a significant experience which I can show to the companies. Will I get a job there or not? But everything happens for a reason, and I do believe that it's very fruitful if you have your mind into the right mindset. So just be optimistic and be steady on. So that's it.
Be positive always. So be positive, and I'm sure, yeah, it just makes the way. Thank you. It's a pleasure, and wishing you all the best in your future. Let me introduce you to the JK Civil Engineering Patron Services. There are three types of professional services I currently provide through the JK Civil Engineering Patron, and of course, many more to be added depending on your demand. So let's talk about all the three services. CAS, pre-CAS or credibility interview preparation. If you wish to study in the UK, you will have to go through the CAS, pre-CAS or credibility interviews. There's no way around, unfortunately. The primary reason for these interviews are to judge the candidate English language competency and ensure the intention of the candidates is focused primarily on the study and not anything else. This service includes a maximum of 30 minutes online session with a feel and pressure of the original interview. I do provide the potential interview questionnaire in advance to help you prepare for the mock interview, and any deficiencies in your responses are covered in the session. If you want to have a smooth ride on your UK study and immigration journey, this can be your chance to avail the opportunity. I can proudly say I have assisted over 200 candidates over the last years alone, and with a success rate of 98%. Professional CV service. CV is your selling point to the client and employers. Even if you are a genius in your field and your CV doesn't match your credentials or skill set, a job in the UK will remain on your wish list forever. To maximize your chances of getting the right job in the UK, why not avail this opportunity? With a 2 decade of UK experience in the professional services, I will rewrite your CV with the best possible format for your skill set and industry requirements with a 100% satisfaction guaranteed. A professional job in the UK is not a dream but a reality. So why delay? Apply today. One-to-one session with JK. This is a career counseling service, whether it's about choosing the on-demand courses, finding a job or settlement in the UK. With a 5-star rating from the clients over the years, I can proudly celebrate this service. With the current recession glooming around the globe and a gradual decline in the job markets, competencies in the right skills will make you stand out from the crowd.
Before it is too late to rewind your aspiration goalpost, it is right time to take action and choose the right path. Link to the JK Civil Engineer Patreon is added to the description below. Thanks for watching.